Good morning, children. Let's move on to the sixth chapter of geography, that is population. But before that, I think you remember what we had done in the previous lesson. We had studied about the natural vegetation and wildlife of India and Brazil, where we had studied about the various forests in India and Brazil and why we need to conserve them. Now, let's move on to the next lesson, that is population. Now, what is population? Population refers to the number of people living in a specific geographic area. This is known as population of that area. Now, can you ever imagine the world without human beings who utilize the resources for the development of the culture as well as for development of the economy? Now, mankind is an integral part of the society as well as the economy. Man uses the resources available to him from the environment, and at the same time, he himself is a resource of varying degree and varying qualities. Now, you can take the example of coal. Coal is just a piece of rock which lies deep inside the earth's crust. But when we bring it out using technology, it becomes a resource. Now, let us find out why population is a resource. Now, considering the population of India, all of you know that India is second only to China when it comes to population. So, a huge population is a strain on the economy. It puts pressure on land and food as well as various resources. But population can also be a resource because it provides labor, or in other words, human capital. At the same time, when we can provide them with the necessary skill and training, they can work in various sectors of the economy like industries, agriculture, and service sectors. This in turn brings about development. Development brings in prosperity, which in turn leads to economic growth. This is the reason why we say that the qualitative aspect of the population is very, very important for the nation's economic and social progress. In other words, if you can arm the population with necessary technical know-how, with the necessary skill, it will result in economic and social progress. Now, let us discuss about the factors which affect population. The following factors affect population: terrain, water, soil, transport, industries, urbanization. Now, under terrain, we are going to deal with whether it is a flat, plain, a mountainous region, or even deserts. Now, when it comes to flat plains, all of us know that the distribution of population along the plains is very, very high because plains offer wide amenities for living. There is ample water, conditions favorable for life exist. Then again, infrastructural facilities like roads, railways, transport and communication also exist. Again, the land is fertile, which means agriculture can also be carried out. And hence you find along the flat plains, the population is more. What about mountains? Mountains are hilly areas or even uneven terrain, and here we find the population to be very, very low, because here it is very difficult for human settlements to develop because of the uneven terrain, first of all, and secondly we find it is very difficult to build roads and even railways. Again, when we take the desert regions, here we have unfavorable climate because of the temperature being very hot here. At the same time, water scarcity also is there in the desert regions. So in the mountainous regions or even the deserts, the population is sparse. Let's take the next factor, that is water. Availability of water is an important factor concerning distribution of population. So wherever water is available, we find the population to be more here. And this is the very reason why we have some of the world's famous river valley civilizations like the Indus Valley or the Nile Valley civilization or even the Tigris and Euphrates river valley civilization have flourished along the banks of rivers. So, wherever water is not available, we find the population to be low in these areas. Next factor is soil. Now, if the soil is fertile, we find the population to be more here. Infertile soils like soil along the marshy regions or along the mangroves or even desert soils have low population. What about transport? Now, availability of transport is an important factor affecting population. Now, you need transport to move from one place to another, to carry on trade, etc. And hence, wherever easy availability of transport is there, we find the population to be more. Hence, in hilly regions where it is very difficult to construct roads or even railways, we find the population to be sparse. Next is industries. Now, where do we set up an industry? Now, wherever raw materials are available in plenty, we find industries get settled there. Now, here, because of the presence of these raw materials, we find industries get set up here, and again we find people come from various parts to find employment in these industries. And hence you find there is an increase in population. This results again in migration of people from the rural areas to urban areas. Thereby, it results in urbanization. Now, due to urbanization, there is increase in population. Now, let us come over to population distribution of India. This is a map of India, and this shows the population distribution of various states according to the 2011 census. Now here, a dot method is used to show the distribution of population. Now here, one dot is equal to 2 lakh people. And if you look at the map here, you'll find there are more number of dots along the Indo-Gangetic plain over here, and then you find along the eastern part of India and even in the western region of India. Then let us take the northern part here along the mountains. We find the number of dots here are less, or even along the northeastern part of India. And in central India, or say the Deccan Plateau region, the number of dots are comparatively more than those which are found in the northern or even the Himalayan regions. Now, let's come to the discussion of these in detail. Now, what is density of population? Now, density of population pertains to the number of people living in per square kilometer area. Or, in other words, we find density of population is a very important index which tells us the concentration of population in a particular area. Let us take the case of union territories. Now, union territories like, say, Delhi, Chandigarh, Puducherry, and even Daman and Diu have a very high population density. This is because of the small size of these union territories. Now, let us come to states which have a very high density of population. As I said, these states are found along the Indo-Gangetic plain. And these states account for more than, more, they are more populated because of various, factors that we've already discussed, like, say, availability of water, favorable climate, infrastructural facilities being easily available, etc. So these states which have a very high density of population are Punjab, Haryana, then Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, Kerala, and also Tamil Nadu. Now, let's come to states which have a very low density. Now, states with very low density are usually along here in India. It is the Himalayan region. So, we have Jammu and Kashmir, then we have Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Arunachal Pradesh. Then, let's come over to states with moderate density. States like Maharashtra, we have Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and Jharkhand are the states which have moderate density of population. Now, let us observe this map of India, which shows population density of India according to 2011 census. Now, this is a choropleth map wherein various color tints are used to show the states with varying densities in population. Now here in India, we can divide the states into four. That is, states which have, say, density which is less than 100. Then we have states which have densities between 101 to 250 people per square kilometers. The third one between 251 to 500 people per square kilometers. And the last one is more than 500. So let us come to these states. Now, states which have a population less than 100. Now, these states have a population less than 100 persons per square kilometers is Jammu and Kashmir. Then we have Himachal Pradesh, Chandigarh, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and Mizoram. Now, what about states which have a population density between 101 to 250 persons per square kilometer? Now, if you look at the map, the second one, you can easily find out it is Meghalaya, Nagaland, and Manipur. Third one is states which have a population between 251 to 500 people living in per square kilometer area. We have Gujarat, Maharashtra, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu. We have Telangana, Karnataka, Odisha, and Jharkhand. And let's come to states which have more than 501 persons living in per square kilometer area. It is, we have Delhi, then we have Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. If you look at this, we've already said most of these are found along the Indo-Gangetic region. So most of these regions are densely populated. Now, coming over to the population of India. Now, according to the 2011 census, India is the second most populated country in the world. The first country, of course, all of you know, it is China. But according to, see, this is only according to the 2011 census, as I said, but by 2045, India is going to be the most populated country in the world. Today, according to 2011 census, our population is 121 crores. Though India occupies a very small percent of land area, that is 2.41%, it supports 17.5% of the world's population. Now, and what about density? So if you consider the population density, we find there are 382 persons living in per square kilometer area in India. So imagine the density of population in India. Now, how are climate and physiography related? Now, we have already gone through the map of India and we had seen the distribution of population. And we also saw how unevenly distributed the population was. We found there were some states like those which lie in the Indo-Gangetic region and along the coastal region, that is Kerala or even Tamil Nadu. We found that these states were densely populated. We also discussed about those states which were having very low population, like say Jammu and Kashmir or even Himachal Pradesh. In other words, the population of India is unevenly distributed. Factors like climate and physiography play a very important role in distribution of population. We've already studied that. That is, see whether it comes to the flat level land or say the Indo-Gangetic plain. As I said, here the density of population is very high because of favorable climate, and easy amenities of life are available here. Infrastructural facilities like transport, communication, trade, etc. can easily be carried out. There are industries here which provide employment. Then we had also talked about climate. If the climate is favorable, we find density of population is very high along these regions. Now, what about desert regions? If it is an uneven terrain, a mountainous region, or even dry deserts, we find population to be very low because they do not offer favorable conditions for survival. Now, let's come to cities. Cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata, etc. have very dense population. Why is it so? Now, these are metropolitan cities and they have easy availability of land for residents. Climate here is favorable. And again, we find there are very many industries here which offer employment to many people. And hence we find population density is very, very high in these regions. At the same time, in mountainous regions or even deserts, population is very low. Now, why are deserts sparsely populated? I've already told you. Now, when you compare the deserts of the world with India, we find the Thar Desert is the densest desert in the world. But yet we find here the climate is unfavorable because it is very, very hot and the soil here is not fertile. What about forests then? Forests too have sparse population because it is inaccessible. So children, I think you have understood this lesson well. So we have discussed about the population of India. We have also seen how physiography and climate play an important role in population. We have discussed how in the mountainous regions the population is sparse because of the hilly terrain. Population is also sparse in deserts as well as in forests. So children, go through this lesson well. There's also an assignment. Along with this, you're expected to answer those questions and then submit it when the school reopens.